Timer. Live. All right. So there you go. I think we're live. Yeah. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first ever book launch here live at the publishing house. This is made possible by Eight Letters Bookstore and Publishing, home of the Filipino indie books, and the publishing house Writers Cafe here at Tamiya, Cebu. So with us today is a very special guest. As you can see here, the books that we've displayed. Uh, well, you signed up. Well, you're here because you signed up for the memoir writing workshop as well. So get ready because we got some exercises for you. And once you complete them, you'll definitely get a certificate after your completion. And you can also sign up for an in-depth memoir writing workshop by the Eight Letters Publishing University. So in our 2-hour agenda today, we'll have Miss Mitos read some excerpts from her book. We'll also talk about how to write a memoir, and of course, uh, we're also joined by Mr. Darwin Price. So he's a musician from California who moved to the Philippines several years ago. He has been playing guitar since childhood and has played gigs in California and locally here in Cebu. When he's not playing guitar, he paints, and he's currently writing a sci-fi novel. So we'll have Miss Mitos read a short excerpt for us, and then it'll be followed by uh, some serenade from Mr. Darwin Price. All right? Okay, so Miss Mitos, we're ready for you.
Hi, thank you again, Cindy. Thank you, Eight Letters. And I want to share that my book, Adorable, The Dictator and Dad, and Shards of Time made the top 100 of Amazon bestseller in Philippine history.
Ooh.
Okay, so I'll share about the time when, because my story is about my dad being arrested during martial law, and I was only 12 years old. So I'll share when the NBI picked my dad up. Okay. So in our home, the day the NBA came to take him away, his fears became reality and rippled through our family. As if the band exposed the extent of my father's arsenal, my mom's strength reigned. Because they discovered that there was a lot of weapons in our house which we didn't know about. I watched her turn pale and begin to shake, completely taken aback by what was happening in her home. I believe she had not been aware that firearms were stashed in a corner of her own walk-in dressing room. She stared at Dad, calling him by his pet name. Ching, what is this all about? She asked. Nothing, Dad responded, expecting Mom to understand the depth of his silence more than his words. Trembling, Mom packed his clothes in a small Samsonite suitcase as if Dad was leaving for just another business trip. To this day, I have the suitcase as a keepsake. Night had fallen and the blazing equatorial moon illuminated the front of the house like the sun, exposing everything that was happening inside. Dad walked to the military jeep parked outside our house as the neighbors watched and wondered. This is it, my grand-uncle Teotinong said, watching from a distance. From inside, I could only catch a glimpse of Dad's silhouette as he sat inside the dim vehicle. He bowed his head and the car sped away. I wasn't even able to kiss him goodbye. Bye, Daddy, I whispered. A feeling of emptiness and dread lingered in the room and enveloped me. I gasped for air and Mom withdrew into silence. She wore a blank stare and had no words or explanation for what had just happened. She was about to face difficult months and years ahead, a woman on her own, raising children in a harsh and forbidding macho culture. Mom was overwhelmed and probably thankful that my 2 older brothers were already living abroad. I was only 12 years old, but even I knew that something was very wrong, that life would never be the same for me. I broke the silence. Mom, where are they taking Dad? I didn't understand. Tito Ben was Dad's friend, and he had just delivered my dad to the military police. As a Catholic child, I thought of Judas' betrayal, his of Jesus. Why did Tito Ben come and take Dad? There was no answer to my questions. Mom could only stare into the distance, shooting holes into space and not hearing me at all. We were mutually bewildered, but I persisted. When will he come home? She looked at me briefly and forced an empty smile. That night, alone in my room, I knew I had not only lost my dad, but had also lost my mother. She gradually retreated into a private world of her own. That night, I resigned myself to the sanctuary of my dreams, curling myself into a fetal position to sleep. The day after the arrest of my dad, the headlines blared. Conspirators of the assassination of President Marcos arrested. It was plastered on pages of local and national papers. To make matters worse, it was also broadcast throughout all the local radio and television stations that were allowed to operate under the new society. Another name for martial law, Dad was one of the many politicians arrested in an alleged conspiracy to assassinate President Marcos. The news of Dad's arrest punched me right through my gut, although I did not fully understand the depth of the accusation. At my young age, I didn't even know what the word conspiracy meant. I had personally witnessed his arrest and I mentally connected the dots except for one. I still could not fathom why Tito Ben arrested Dad. This was my Tito Ben who joined us for Sunday dinners and shared humorous stories with us. He played poker and golf with Dad and later stayed for drinks. He was a regular presence in our house. I simply could not understand why he'd come to arrest Dad. I was also stunned with shame as if I carried the sins of my father, not even knowing what those sins were. At the same time, I was enveloped in fear. I didn't know what the next day might bring. I had a knotted feeling in my stomach that the course of my life had changed forever. I was a young girl and not ready to deal with what was to come. I longed for an earthquake to swallow me, burying me 10 feet under a rubble of stones and earth.
That is truly wonderful. I remember while I was reading this part of your memoir, because I've also read the book, A Doorbell, Dictator, and A Dad. So yeah, that was the part that also startled me. Well, for you guys who are here to learn about memoir writing, we'll get to that later. But I hope you also noticed how Miss Mitos was telling her story in the book. So it's kind of like somehow it feels like uh, um, like watching a movie, but it's actually the reality that was happening. So that is the first part. So I want you guys, for those who have registered in this workshop, whether it's online and offline, take note of the words that Miss Miras has been using in her memoir. So I want you guys to listen carefully. So that is only the first part. So we'll talk about the elements of memoir later. I'm sure Miss Miras actually she has prepared a module for us. Um, but the thing is, for you guys to write a memoir, you should first read lots of memoir. Well, at least five, right? Because otherwise, you wouldn't know what is it about. So here's your first exercise before Mr. Darwin Price starts to serenade us. So the first exercise for you is to think about a theme, or a common denominator for the personal essays or collection of personal essays that you're going to write, or your memoir. What is it going to be about? So, okay, I'm sure you have your pen and paper with you. Okay, you have your pen and paper with you. And for you to get that certificate, make sure to keep the comments going on our Facebook Live. So tell us about the theme that you're going to write, like the memoir. So other than that, okay, so Mr. Darwin Price is going to serenade us for 15 minutes. So stay tuned. We'll keep on watching the comment section. All right.
So I picked some songs that are kind of memoir related. They're storytelling kind of songs. And this one is called She Divines Water. So it's like telling the future a little bit. How can I believe everything in this world is going to be fine? How can I believe everything in this world has its place in time? 'Cause when I lay down to sleep, I feel the world spin slightly off axis and shaped like a thing. And when I lay next to you, I shiver and shake. You tell me you love me, I dream I'm awake. How can I believe everything in this world is going to be fine? How can I believe everything in this world has its place in time? 'Cause when I lay down to sleep, I have the same dream of a world-famous actress in a pink limousine. She flies through the sky with a pink Cadillac, while the boys of the press drink vodka and die. She tells me our fortunes by crumbling leaves, teaches us card trick, the jack leaves us weak. She defines water by dancing a jig. The boys of the press, they all whisper a hymn. How can I believe everything in this world is going to be fine? How can I believe everything in this world has its place in time? That's a song that is by Camper Van Beethoven, some guys I knew in California, really good band, and I love the song, so thought I'd share it with you. Let me pick something else out if I can. Let me see. This is one that I woke up with this song in my mind this morning, and I really like it. It's kind of about imagining yesterday, imagining tomorrow, and how things are. So it was in my mind this morning, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. It goes, already yesterday, we're off the calendar. I heard the sirens play, just like an orchestra. Mechanical birds of prey sing for your emperor. Last broken flash of love, still in the camera. We don't feel those locks and chains. We don't listen to the lizard part of our brain. Giving the order, another morning will be gone. Start the car for 5 mile beach, and maybe I'm on across the water already. yesterday. Nobody's answering. Disconnected, drift away. Nobody's questioning. Hands shoulder beat of clay. Who is surrendering? They fall and I hate. I am remembering. We don't feel those aches and pains. We don't listen to the voices in the city rain. Giving the order. Another morning will be gone. Start the car for by my beach and maybe Avalon. Over the border. Another morning will be gone. Start the car for 10 my beach and maybe Avalon. Over the water. We don't feel those locks and chains, but we don't listen to the lizard part of our brain. Giving the order.
So nice. Just okay. I just want you to just keep on going, but we also will have to have Miss Mitos on the spotlight for the memo writing. But don't worry, because we're going to hear Mr. Darwin once more towards the end. So the reason why we have Mr. Darwin to play these songs for you guys, as you've noticed, it's memoir inspired. It's because you need inspiration to write something. You know, how do you make something uninteresting interesting? I think that's usually well, not a lot of people are exposed to happenings like Miss Mitos. Like you have your own unique experience, like every one of us, like we have our unique experience. Like some of us, we just wake up and do our stuff, and along the way, you know, we will have these reflections, we'll have these interesting encounters, we'll talk to people, we hear some inspirational songs, and somehow, you know, it gives us hope, or it gives us something somehow. Like, you know, it reminds us perhaps about our regrets in the past, reminds us about our future, about the present. So we'll have Miss Minos talk about what really is a memoir, what are the elements, what does it take to write such a powerful memoir. You know, well, one thing is listening to songs. You know, I can't imagine how you've written these two memoirs. I mean, listening to your husband's songs, I mean, for sure there will be plenty of inspiration there. But well, only you can tell us more about it.
Okay, what is a memoir? It's derived from the Latin word memory or memoria, and usually it's an explanation or a description of a certain event or in your life, you know, in the author's life, and usually it has a theme. There's something you want. You have a message or lessons learned, something in your life that happened that you want to impart to your readers or to your audience, you know. And yeah, compared to an autobiography, it's totally different. It's a chronicle of the timing in your life from your birth till till you die or to the present. But the memoir is more like just that the certain event or time when something in your life changed. And that was, for me, it was when I was 12 years old, when my father was arrested.
Mhm.
And I want to share like my process. Like when I wrote this adorable a dictator I dad, it took me like 10 years. 10 years to write this. It was so hard. Like I felt like I needed to write this. It really needed. So I don't know, you guys, what's the reason you want to write? But for me, it was healing and therapy. It had to get out of my system, and I felt like if I have to write this first before I can really write.
Mhm.
So it needed to come off my system, and so I was already stuck. I wrote for 10 years, and I was even going back and forth with the voices. Normally, the voice of a memoir or narrative is first voice,
Mhm.
but I couldn't, I was undecided. I could first voice, and then I went back to third voice, then I went to two voice. I even let my father write, like, come on, write. I thought about my chapter, then his chapter, and then finally somebody said, you cannot write for your father, think for your father, you have to stick to you. Then I said, okay, I have to rewrite this again. So just there alone, I was already stuck then. And then also like, do I write the real names or the, different name? Do I write an alias? So all these things like got me stuck. And anyway, what my breakthrough, I even went to like different writing groups too, and it got me even more stuck or confused because people were editing and like crazy, and you just can't move on. And I was finally like sick and tired of it. I thought it will never come out, and I just put this on the shelf because I was like, I still didn't know how to get this out of the closet.
Mhm.
And then finally, by coincidence, we met a friend. She's a writer in the mountains in California, and then she was working with my husband, Darwin, and she was a writer, and she just wrote people's memoir. And she just said, okay, you know, give me your book, we'll work together. And she was so generous. She didn't even charge. She just want to make sure that it comes out. So that helped. And but anyway, so when you get the first baby out, it gets easier because this was done like in less than a year. So this is more like a documentary. But there's also another part I want to share is that there are like a lot of politicians in this book that I was so scared to write about because I have a feeling that when I come home, I might get arrested, or I can't come home at all or can come home to Cebu anymore because Cebu is still a small town and people know each other. So that was another part too that I was really scared to write. And I think after my father's death, and I felt more free, and I was also scared that I might offend him. So those are my fears. So so when I wrote this, Darby, who's never even heard about the Philippines, she's my co-writer. She helped me with this, and then we were mailing back and forth. I mean, we were friends, and we lived in California together. But then I moved to the Philippines, so she just really wanted to wrap this up already, And then, so we were emailing each other, and so many paragraphs dropped. And then I decided, and I asked her, why, what about this I wrote to you? And she said, it's all there. Finally, I felt like, okay, it's there, and she really helped me with this, and I'm very grateful. But I felt like there were still like holes that I had to fill in. So this is more like a creative nonfiction, and this time I was more cautious, and I covered some names, and also did a little exaggeration, to just add drama to this to my story. So that was the story of these two books. But there are things I want to just share with you about memoir writing. There are things the characters of a memoir, and you really have to think first of all, are you gonna use your real name or are you gonna use an alias? Because in memoir, there are things that are sensitive to the family that you don't want to hurt. You love them, and you don't want to hurt them. So, okay, you decide, okay, if I use an alias, but how are you going to market it? Then you have to have two social Facebook, your real name and your real life, and then your author name. It's confusing. And what about you're invited to, to read your books, or you promote it? How are you going to promote it? People eventually know your real name, right? So I said, you know what? I'll use my name, you know. Then the title, they say usually make it short, like 3, 4 letters, and it works. And then the subtitle should be the one to explain what the title is about. But some writers tip is like, just use like the first letter, like like here, a dad, a dictator, a adorable a dictator, a dad, So if the libraries pick it up, you're the first one. Yeah, that's just the writer's trick. You're the first one, or the last one, Z. You're the last one, but who will browse in the middle? Yeah, it's like the middle child, right? But at least those are tricks, writer's tricks, right? And then the timeline, when you start, you have to have like, let's say you have a bond paper here, draw a horizontal line from left to right, and then you have to write like where does it begin and where does it end. At least you have a beginning and an end, right? And then you can fill in the dots like in between, but at least because you're not writing an autobiography, you're writing a memoir, so you have to really have a clear outline of where you start and where you end, okay? And where you did. Then, okay, the chapters, the most important chapters are the first chapter and the last chapter. Okay, the first chapter always talks about an issue, a problem you want to resolve, and then hopefully the last chapter has a closure, like it resolves your problem, and also the thing is with the first chapter, if you write a boring chapter, people will not read your book anymore. So you really have to catch them on the first chapter. And I had also like when I started this book, I wrote a writers group, and I wanted, it's like what you did in summer vacation, and I just wrote this like very much like what happened to me last summer. And our mentor or the leader of he said like, you have an interesting story to tell. I said, but don't start. You have to start like with the arrest, because that's where like it's thrilling. So those are the things that you have to capture them in the beginning, and then to let them read your book. So those are the important factors. And then to hook your audience, and then the chapter length is also important. There's no rules about the chapter length, but like a good chapter length would be like 5 pages or 2,500 words. You have to remember that when people read, after they read one chapter, they want to breathe, like they want to make a phone call or clean the house or do something else, and then they go back to that chapter. So just make sure it's not so long, same with the paragraph, so that your readers can breathe, So then, it's important that in a memoir, you're really telling the truth as much as you can. I mean, what is really truth? The truth can be subjective, right? Like my family could experience the same event, but they saw it differently compared to me, So we both experienced the same situation, but I reacted differently. I saw it differently. My brothers or sisters saw it differently. But you have to just stick to the truth as much as you can. You have to be really honest as much as you remember. And then again, the names, it's important. I know you're saying that if you use a real name, you have to ask permission. And my publisher, she was like, well, you're not saying bad things about them, but still you can be sued, right? So you want to avoid that, right? So, and then she says like, I wrote in this book like one figure, and he was really known to be a warlord, and all over the internet, everybody calls him a warlord. And we were like, she was like, is he a warlord? I said, I think so. I think it's all over the internet, but I was so scared to write about it. But everybody knew, and she was like, well, it's all over the internet, so why would they sue you? Because, I was like, please be careful, okay, what you write, because she was really helping me write this. But then she said, it's all over the internet, so why would they sue you, right? But you never know also, right? So those are the things you have to be cautious. Some memoir writers, they mix it, like they have false name and true names, like personalities you share there. I mean, like I cannot make up like, although sometimes you have some people they invent a whole country, and a whole But then again, the draw is like when I write about the president, or our governors, they have their names and there are also a cell actually, so you're kind of like the chicken or the egg. Where do you go? How do you do that? So those are the things you have to consider. And then somebody wrote to that it's better if you like invent a place rather like put the real, because it was happening in Camotes Island and I just tried to make up like Comey Island, but apparently a lot of people are interested and they want to go to Comey Island, which doesn't exist, right? This is my second book, but it's really Camotes Island. And and one writer said she was really glad that she changed the name of her location, because so many of her writers, she became a New York bestseller and all these accolades. And then she said people were looking for her location, so she was so relieved that she changed the name, because you don't want people coming to your personal house, right, looking for you. And so I also changed the name of the island. And then they say the pace, every word counts, right? So when you have a descriptive description, descriptive passages, you have longer sentences and harrowing, like a scene or tense situations, and short, sharp sentences. Okay. They also say that our vocabulary is so rich, so you don't have try to limit like those adjectives and adverbs. Keep paragraph short. Now we also have to create like a page turner, because you really want them to continue to read about their page. So don't give everything away on the first chapter. Like when you in the chapters, like when you say, Pedro fell off the boat, then you don't tell in the same chapter what happened to him after he fell off the boat. So people want to open the next what happened to him. So what happened to your father, So you have to put it in the next chapter, so they would encourage them to keep on reading. So those are like little tricks, and I think that applies to series too. You have like a cliffhanger, and then the people want to know more, and they'll buy the next book or they'll keep on reading. So that, and then of course, dialogue is so important. It injects life into your story. And let the characters speak to your readers. Let the characters speak to your readers, and let me see. It increases space and injects life into the book. And I remember when I also when I was writing, and I'm a history major student, so I couldn't help like to inject like history of the Philippines or all this, boring stuff. I felt like it was important for the readers to know. But when I had like friends or family read it, they said they'll skip like, oh, okay, there goes again the political stuff. They don't want to read the background. But they jump into the dialogue. They like to know what's going on in the dialogue. So I said, okay, but I couldn't help like putting the whole like Cebu Island and what's the whole background history. I just couldn't help it because I'm a history student. But they say that like if you're a fan of Harry Potter, and you read those books, there's a lot of dialogue there, like rich in dialogue. So we should really, consider like a dialogue is important, and then of course, refrain from using a lot of foreign words. It frustrates the readers because they don't want to like look at the back, to keep on finding out the meaning. And I couldn't help it because I'm a Visayan and I had to put some curse swear words there. I couldn't help put it, but they just say it's okay to make it more local color. You put it some local color, but just don't put too much of it because it will frustrate a foreign reader, who doesn't know your language, right? You don't want to like give them too much work. Quotes are okay, and when you write like in a dialogue, when there's two speakers, so you start one speaker and then the second speaker should be the next paragraph. You don't put them all in one paragraph. Okay, and then let me see. Of course, your vocabulary should be really rich. So thesaurus should be your best friend. And thanks God for now, like there's an online thesaurus. You could check if you repeat the word, which happens to me a lot. unconsciously that I repeat a lot of words. So you try to find a synonym for it, but also make sure that it's friendly to you. It's nothing that too, like too out of this world. Like then people think you're really showing off and you're not being real. Be comfortable with that word. And then again, the make sure I don't know if you guys are writing, but I tend to make a lot of repetitions, and sometimes I don't know. So there's a right now, thanks God for there's Google apps that help you spot repetitive, and even if I read it second or third time, I will see a repetition. Even if I'm working with my editor, I spot it. So it helps to have those apps to detect the repetition or repeating of phrases or words. Of course, you proofread it, search for errors, grammar, spell checks, punctuations, the tense and organization, and it helps to have a really good professional editor. I think it's a must, but you can also have your friends and family, a good friend, read it to you, or if you can't find somebody to read it for you, read it to yourself, and you will spot like the things that you need to change. Those are just like tricks to help you make the correction. And then even if you change also like font size, like you start with 11, make it 14 or 12, that helps too. Then you can spot the errors. Those are like pointers. What else? Of course, there's like also apps and softwares that that can proofread and make those corrections for you. And of course, it also helps if, aside from having a professional editor, you have the advanced readers, so that they're better readers. They really help you before you just put it out there. 'Cause you really want to put a good word out there. Okay. Let's see what else. Yeah, because editors, the editor really works on your plot or character development, pace, structure, storyline. They don't really edit it for you, but sometimes they do. And then also like the size matters of your book, because if it's too little words, then your readers might felt like they paid for it and they felt like they're shortchanged. I mean, there's really no general rule about but and how we ask how short could it be, how long could it be, but you want to make sure if it's a short read, you have to tell them it's a short read, otherwise they might feel like they're shortchanged. And how long, there are no rules, but at least words are like 65,000 to 95,000 words are ideal. And then if it's really too long, it sells better when it is divided and cut into as a series. You could sell it, and the readers really love series. So that's one thing to note. And then last, but not least, like, are you gonna go traditional or are you gonna be an indie author? I opted to be an indie author because I've been meeting a lot of writers and making my own research. And I've met a lot of traditional published authors, and it has been very lucrative for them to, even if they were, published by traditional houses. But they said that even they had they felt like they had more freedom going the indie route, and it gave them more freedom, and actually they earn more. So so they opted, but that's your decision. Some people, they think like if you're not picked up by a traditional house that you're less than a writer, but that's not true. Sometimes it's really your prerogative. But I opted to be an indie author, and I'm glad to be here right now, home of indie author house, publishing house. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Mitas. Well, I hope you guys managed to write down or take down some notes. I'm here to go through those notes once again, okay? Because I kind of pick up a lot. But I've written memoirs as well, but I love the points that you made. Well, the first thing that you mentioned is make sure or check if it's legal. to write or take down or put their names um, in the story, because you can get sued for that. But well, the thing about being a writer, that's the risk for you to take. Like, are you willing to take the risk? Well, some other like political people,
Yeah.
that maybe they don't really care
Mm.
that their names appear in the book. But anyway, they're all over the internet anyway.
That was
So
the what my editor said. That it's like, because I was really scared. Like, oh my God, can I still go home? Will I be banned from my country? And she said, but they're all over the internet, and you're not saying really bad things about them. But what I forgot to mention is it's safe to put a disclaimer. So you might as well put a disclaimer. In my memory, this is really what I remember. You have to stick to yourself and not hearsay. But this is really what I remember. So that would be safe. But yeah, make sure you put out a disclaimer right there.
yes, and well, because we're talking about different perspectives here. What happened to you doesn't necessarily mean it happened to your brother or to your sister, even if you're all there on during that day, right? So you guys have different experiences. So yes, I think it's safe just to put the disclaimer there. This is your truth, and
Mm.
well, it doesn't, or it's not necessarily the truth for everyone, but this is my truth. So that can be the disclaimer. And then another thing, okay, the reason why we ask you guys to put on the theme, comment the theme that you've chosen, because you have to write something that's a page turner, right? I remember I've actually read this book in one sitting. I read it in one sitting. Like, I was not I was not even sitting, but I was just like, wow, like it's a real page turner of a book. So your friend Darby Lee did a really great job. So remember to put it like in the beginning of the story. You don't want to start with something like, "Oh, my summer vacation," right? Here's what happened last summer. Like, okay, well, what is it about? You have to really think of something distinctive, something that will pick the reader's attention. Yeah, so that's another tip for you guys. And then another thing is, well, even if you're writing a memoir, of course it's not an autobiography, but you still need to have a beginning, a middle, and the end, because you still have to build tension, or at least have some resolution towards the end. Yes, I think that's really very helpful. Um, okay, so for the attendees here in the cafe today, they all got a memoir kit. So the same thing. Okay, I'll send it. I'll send this to you guys, to our online students who are in Manila right now, because that's the thing about our geography. they, well, okay. Thank you everyone for those of you who are here. Um, and then, of course, another thing that I would like to recommend for you, aside from the team, aside from thinking about the people that you're going to put in your story, considering the title you mentioned. Well, I didn't, I wasn't thinking about why you even put in uh, this title, or why did you use this title? A doorbell, a dictator, a dad. It's it's a good writing trick. You'll be the first, in the library, because maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe people won't really read or check out the middle section, but it's good to be the first book to get picked up. Okay, and so of course, well, aside from that, okay, I have to check my notes. Aside from that, yeah, so setting a topic, and then forming your voice. So you mentioned it took a long time, gathering the voice. You were thinking about using the third voice, second voice, and then the first voice.
Mm.
I Okay. I think when you're writing a memoir, the voice is, of course, this is the essential element, right? So perhaps, or the best thing is probably to use your own voice. voice.
Yeah, normally it's really the first voice, but I didn't know all these things
Mhm.
until I was writing a memoir and then getting really into it and learning more and more. So the narrative should really be first voice, but I just didn't know where and how to start. And then later, as I kept on writing and I'm learning also as I write more and more the technicalities. It helps to know the rules.
Yeah, it helps to know the rules. So
Yeah.
that's why we're here. That's why we're doing here. Okay, that's what we're doing here. We're telling you guys the things that you need to consider when you're writing a memoir. So it's well, first, of course, you need to read as much memoirs as you can. Get the voice of other people. Like check how did they use their voice, their own voice. How does it sound, right? So another tip or another trick for you is like just write. Okay, as our motto here, like write drunk, edit sober. You can just keep on writing. Don't think about don't think about anything else. Just keep on writing and then read it in the morning. See how you sound like.
They even say like read it 1 week later and it's even
Mhm.
sound different.
Yeah. It could be a week later after
Yeah.
you rested.
Yeah.
And well, when your mind's fresh and all that, then you can read it a week later. Yes.
Yeah.
And well, Miss Mikas, I have this problem where I get to be really, really busy. I think I think the same thing goes with our other students here. We tend to get so busy that it's so hard to even reflect. And I have this book in my head. Like I was thinking about writing the collection like Summer in Siberia, but I couldn't. I just can't get to write it down because, well, the structure of the book is already in my head, but it's so hard to find the solitude. But what's your tip? Well, do you have any recommendation for those people who've been wanting to write their memoir but they can't just do it?
Yeah, that too. When I'm writing, I make sure that I had a discipline that I get up at 4 in the morning, and then I try to meditate and pray, and then after that, I have a habit of watching news. But when I'm writing, I don't want to be affected by the news, so I don't even. And then I just take care of me, because I'm also a digital nomad, and every time I open the computer, I'm afraid because I opening the computer for me is work, But I have to remind myself that this is my holy hour, like from 4 to 6, before I tap into the world. So when I'm writing, I try to have that discipline. So that helps me. I got up, and then my mind is also clear. I don't have clutter or all these things that distract me. But when I'm not writing, then I'm just okay. I watch the news, but I still get up at 4.
Oh wow, wow, wow. Okay, I don't know if that will work for me. Getting up at 4, maybe will for you guys. Maybe you can pick up a time that's really good for you. Then yeah, try to use
But
that.
it's quiet. And,
Quiet.
I think the world is still, and I don't have that energy from everywhere. So and I've also been reading habits of successful people, and they get up at 4. So
The 4 a.m. club.
yeah, you can say that.
Okay. Yes. And another thing to consider as well when you're writing a memoir, um, what would people think about me, especially if I'm a beginner. If I'm a beginner, what would people think about me? Like what would others think about what what is it that I'm writing about? Um, this is one struggle for a lot of writers because maybe a lot of their family members they don't know that you write, right? You want to hide this version of yourself. Like I don't want other people to know that I'm a writer, but I just have to get this all out. And maybe you have this goal that you really want to have this book. You really want to have. You really want to write this story. Like, do you have any advice for those people that who've been wanting to really put their book out, but kind of scared to take that step? Like, how do I tell my friends and family that Hey, I've written a book.
Yeah, that was actually that was another part why it took me so long, 10 years, because when my father died, then I felt that I need to get this out. But he knew I was writing and I was digging. He even brought me to his friends to interview them, so he was helping. He wants his story out. But still, how do you air out the dirty laundry? So when he passed away, I knew that this really needs to come out. Then I talked to my family, and thanks God, my family is very supportive. I really informed them, and I even showed them like my first draft, and they corrected me, but they were very like nervous and all cautious, and it was really. But I think with the support of my family, my father too, even in the other side, I felt like he was writing with me, so he was with me, so that gave me, and then I felt like Darby, my co-writer or editor, she fell in my lap. She was like a divine intervention that she just came because even she didn't charge me for all the work she did. So that was really like a gift from heaven. But for people who are so scared or have the fear, this is again the solution because this is basically the same story as this one, but this is more like you would call like a creative nonfiction. So it's still a nonfiction. Then you can really cover the names and you don't have to blurt it all out or air out the dirty laundry. So my family was scared of this book. But this book, when I put, nobody cared. I don't even think they read it. Some probably, but it was like no big deal because their names were now covered. But like everybody was nervous when I was going to write them up. So for people who are stuck, these are the two alternatives. Either you write everything your truth, or then you write a creative nonfiction, and that should at least cover like 50% of it. Then what you want to cover up, but that is based on a true story. So you feel safe in this one, because they say the memoir writing is really difficult. It's easier to write a fiction, but with memoir you have to really do real research and stay as much as possible to the truth, as much as you perceive it, but be honest, because people will really find out if you're not sharing your truth.
Yeah. It feels like getting naked.
Yeah,
In this
yeah.
like coming out naked. Like what? Yeah, it's kind of scary, but yeah. I mean, if you're going to write your memoir, I would. I mean, I see you as a brave writer. Yeah. So thank you, Miss Mitos, for bringing that to us. So, do you guys have any questions? I think we've got lots of comments here. How about from the audience? Any anything that you want to share? Okay. Let's see. I think I've read some comments here. One from Renato. I'm thinking of faking my death, then writing my memoirs, kind of like Tales from the Dead. Is that okay? I think he's just joking.
They write that like I have stories where the spirits talk to you through the computer.
Oh, okay. But
That's another story, another book.
Renato, I think you're mixing up science fiction to
They say that the paranormal romance.
paranormal. Okay, paranormal.
romance. Yeah, that sometimes there's like a really creative fiction.
Yeah. Yeah, so Emerald saying, I'm thinking of doing a memoir regarding my health and how I survived it. Yeah.
Regarding the what?
How her health. And yeah, Emerald is a writer. She's also a coach. But last year, I'll let her tell her story. But yeah, last year, something serious happened. But she's doing better. She's doing better. I hope Coach M. If someone suffers a multiple personality disorder, should a patient credit his or her various personalities? Yeah, that's Renato once more. Renato, I don't think you can launch your book here in Cebu anymore. Okay, Rosa, I might write about my health issue just like Miss Emerald, but I'm focusing more on the struggles of having an invisible illness, the everyday life we deal in and out of our house. Yeah. Okay. So looking forward to read that, Rosa. I hope you get to release that story out. Yeah. And there's Don Andres Mabini. Memento. I think this is the theme of his memoir, Memento. Turning point. I'm considering to jot about my spiritual enlightenment journey, a kind of uncovering psi phenomena and develop ESP. That's interesting. Yeah. Tell us more about it. Okay, character development. Okay, let's see. Charles, my memoir would tell connections, past and present, forgotten and treasured. Yeah, nice one. Yeah. Uh, okay. Anna Karenina, for new writers, is a memoir ideal for a first book? I would say I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. It's gonna be very difficult, but I think yes, there's one memoir I read, and she did a very fantastic job. Her story was so intense, like really very heavy, like in sexual abuse and violent and everything. But she used like a house. The house was telling the story of what the people with the characters were doing, and then she named the abuser a hornet. Like her father was the hornet and the mother was the bee. So she made them like she made characters like insect, named them, and it was interesting the way she weaved them, and it was like the story was so intense that I think the way she told it, the house was sharing it, everything was going. That kind of like lightened the load, like made it readable. Otherwise, it would be so,
So
another
dramatic, so heavy.
story that sometimes you don't want something so dark.
Yeah. Some people would read stories to be inspired, but then they don't really want to go through that part of struggle.
Yeah.
Well, some people are okay with that. Okay, question from Rosa. Earlier, Miss Mita says that the last chapter is important because it ties everything or the closure. But what if the theme or topic is an ongoing battle for the writer? Any advice how to end the book?
Series.
Yes, it's going to be a series.
Have a cliffhanger. Wait for the next series.
Yeah. I think that's one good tip because I use that in embracing uncertainties because it's uncertain. Life is uncertain. Like it's the title itself, and I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen in this book. I don't know if it's going to be a happy ending. Sometimes there's no resolution.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's no happy ending. So just give them a happy for now. Well, I know you're not writing romance. It's not a happy ever after, but at least you're okay for now. I'm okay. You give some kind of a good vibe at least towards the end. Okay. Okay. Yeah. There you go. So I think for the next exercise, so now that you've got your theme, I want you guys to think about or list down the chapters. What would be the chapters in your memoir? Okay, so at least like 5 to 10. Give us 5 to 10. So that's one of the exercises, and then you can get your certificate. Yeah, and then of course while you're doing that, okay, we'll have Mr. Darwin again to play for us.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so that's 5 to 10 chapters. All right.
Yeah. By the time I'm done singing the song. I was just bony hands, cold as the winter's pole. You held the warm stone out, some flowing blood to hold. Oh, what a contrast you were to the brutes in the hole. My timid young fingers held a decent animal. Over the ramparts we tossed, the scent of your skin like some foreign flower, tied to a brick, as sweet as a song. The years have been short, but the days were long. Cool is a temperate breeze, dark skies to wet grass. I fell in the field, it seems now 1,000 summers past. When our guidelines first crossed, we had to tie them into knots to finally fly apart. We had to cut them off. Then it seems like a book you read in reverse. You understand less as the pages turn. Or a movie so crass and awkwardly cast, but even I could be the star. I don't look back too much as a rule. And all of this way before murder is cool. But your memory is here, and I'd like you to stay. A warm light in a winter's day. Over the ramparts we tossed, the scent of your skin like some foreign flower, tied to a brick, is as sweet as a song. The years have been short, but the days go slowly by. Two loose kites falling from the sky, drawn to the ground and an end to fly. Kind of a sad song.
So sad. Okay.
Should I do another?
Or perhaps we can read
Let's do that.
another answer. Yes. So now we'll read another answer. So I know you guys maybe you haven't you don't have your copy of Shards of Time yet. So this is a good way for you to get a grasp or glimpse of what the book is about.
The phone call, November 2010. I peered outside the window, admiring the ash brown leaves of the red oak tree, acknowledging that we were in the midst of the fall season and the approaching advent of our busiest time at the Industrial Business Park area of Benicia, California. A stack of boxes filled the desk, reminding me of the magic ones on a ship before the end of the day. The phones were ringing off the hook, and I was in dire need of my adrenaline rush. Pressing line one, I sighed. "Thank you for calling. When is our package coming?" a customer demanded. Then I answered, "Do you have a tracking number?" Line two was beeping. "Will it arrive before Christmas? It's an incredibly special gift, you know. It can't be late." "Help! I am drowning." Abby, my boss and my best friend, approached my cubicle. She towered above me, 6 foot tall inches. She tucked her ginger hair behind her ears, exposing her cherubic face. "How's your morning going?" I flashed her my "please save me" grin. "Remember, we are spreading magic," Abby constantly reminded me. "Each time we ship a wand out, we send our blessings as well. They always come back to us threefold." This was her business philosophy, being an established, successful artist, jeweler, and writer in the pagan community who started a goddess movement. She'd created a spiral goddess collection in Northern California. Some of her pieces are permanently displayed in the Smithsonian Museum as part of their Women History collection. Abby was also a staunch advocate in the feminist and LGBTQ communities. "You have come a long way from me managing her businesses," where we produce magnificent magic wands made of pewter, decked with semi-precious stones, goddess silver jewelry, sculptures, and universal theme prayer books to working together now. I squeezed her arm. You're right, I needed to hear this. Blessed be. Every time a Harry Potter movie was released, our sales would soar above the ceiling as our revenue sources were derived from serious practicing Wiccans, New Age metaphysical outlets, as well as parents of children following Harry Potter. I remember one slow afternoon when we bought Starbucks, sweets, and goodies, settled in the office, stuffed wands in their tubes, inserted spell books, and sent off blessings while listening to an audiobook of Joseph Campbell's series or share ballads on tape. I'm bipolar, Abby blurted out. I don't take any medicine for it. Oh, I said, not knowing how to react. No wonder. I never knew what her mood would be every time I came to work. She could be the sweetest, most loving, generous person, but at other times she acted like a strident, petulant child. I loved and accepted both personalities unconditionally. On a serious note, do you have time to come to the warehouse? Abby asked. It's the season and I'm overwhelmed. Yes, dear, I said. When do you need me? Yesterday, she grinned. I had a busy schedule, but when Abby needed me, I always came running. What are friends for, right? Tension filled the air while I took a sip of cappuccino, then sputtered out. Damn, what was I thinking when I poured that boiling water? Abby nudged, are you okay? I bit my lip as her eyes swept my desk. Clearing her throat, she said, the UPS truck is coming in 2 hours. We need to get this out today. A knot formed in my stomach, forcing me to speak faster than usual. Yes, 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 yes. Her smile disappeared and transformed into a frown. And please answer the phone. The last call I received was from an innocent child. Who the once helped me clean my room? Ring, ring. One more ring and I'll scream. Not paying attention to the caller ID, I rubbed my eyes and picked up the call. This is Mita. How can I help you? A brief hello filled the air. Mita, it's Jake. Paused, then continued. I'm afraid I have bad news. An icy sweat trickled down my nape. A vision of Dad flashed before me, then vanished in a second. Oh no, Dad? He's gone. His voice quivered just a few minutes ago. Huh? What do you mean? Dad passed away. A big blow struck my body while my innards turned into jelly. No, no, no. He said he'd wait for me. I raised my voice in denial. You were still going to Coney Island. I already have my airline ticket for Cebu. This can't be happening. Funeral will be in the next few days, Jake asked. Come home now. I hung up before he could finish the sentence. Glancing at the window, I fixed my gaze at the red oak tree, finding comfort in the wind blowing the leaves. It's every child's worst nightmare to learn that their parents has passed away. I don't even know if it meant the silver cord was finally cut. Now that my father was gone, I questioned my mortality. Why didn't you wait for me to come home, Dad? Abby stood there with raised eyebrows. At 70 years old, her hearing may have faded, but her perception had heightened with age. My father just passed away, I wailed out. Abby straightened her shoulders and gave a long breath. I'm so sorry, Nita. She reached out to me and gave me a tight embrace. The world spun and my heart raced like on cue. Abby held me closer, allowing me to focus on the rise and fall of her breathing. She gripped me tightly and said, you can do this. Don't worry about work. You need to get on the plane now. After bidding Abby goodbye, I eyed the stack of folders and brushed my thoughts aside. Work can wait. I strode toward my car, opened the door, and slid into the driver's seat. Upon starting the ignition, I spotted a golden monarch hovering around. It flapped its beautiful yellow wings while circling me. I blinked. Dad? Is this another sign? Yellow is Dad's favorite color, which signifies hope. Dad had always had a positive outlook in life, and this trait helped me overcome the numerous battles he faced in life. Before releasing the brake and closing the door, the monarch fluttered in. Is this really you, Dad? I turned the radio on, bracing myself for a good 45 minutes drive home from Benicia to Moraga. The music caught my attention. Dad, this is your favorite song. And now the end is near, so I'll face the final curtain. I turned off the ignition. Drying my tears, I sang at the top of my lungs, My Way by Frank Sinatra, that's national anthem. For what is a man, what has he got? If not himself, then he has not. To say all the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows, but I did it my way. Dad sang this song at every party and karaoke opportunity, and this moment felt so surreal, like he was crooning to me. Moments later, a strong familiar scent pervaded the car, Dad's favorite cologne, Old Spice aftershave. When you see that, why did you have to die without saying goodbye to me? Taking the next exit, I whispered a solemn prayer aloud. May you rest in peace, Dad. I'm sorry I wasn't there on time. A vision of him flashed through my mind. He was young once again, dashing with a twinkle in his eyes, and no trace of lines and weariness in his face. I'll be home soon, Dad. I love you.
Thank you, Miss Mitos. Thank you for that. So I could really sense that your common theme is your father. Is that right? It comes in two books. So yeah, so in both Shards of Time and a doorbell, a dictator, and a dad. So your father appeared in both books. So I could see that he has a lot of influence on you. Yeah, so yeah, so that's it. If you guys have any more questions, please feel free to send them here in the comments. So there's Nally Rose Quinones. Good afternoon, everyone watching from Midsayap, North Cotabato. Yeah, wow. So from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Okay, yes. Okay. Rosa. Okay, so Jazira sent the chapters na for her memoir. Wow, that's quick. I also saw Coach Emerald sent her an entry. So Rosa, if I'll write my memoir, my chapters will have title something like this. So the first one is like in my mom's favorite teleserie about how I learned about my condition. Number two, super ate slash tita no more. Times when I rely to my young nieces, nephews for help. Number three, chapter three, play football with the seniors, how to get in front of the line against senior citizens respectfully. The fourth one, the golden chair, or the front row seat in the public utility buses. The fifth one is privilege power of using PWD IDs. I'm not sure if it's okay though. Yeah, I think, yeah, that at least, well, I could see some people smiling in this room. So yeah, Rosa, I think these are great chapters for you. Yeah, so I guess while we're waiting for the others' submission, perhaps we can get serenaded again
Sure.
by Mr. Darwin. Okay.
Let me see what to do. This is kind of a story. Well, the mystery man, he came over. He said, well, I'm out of sight. Said, for a nominal service charge, I could reach Nirvana tonight. If I was ready, willing, and able to pay him his regular fees, he'd drop all of his important affairs, devote his attentions to me. I said, look here, brother, you're driving with that cosmic degree. Well, who do you think you're driving? Oh, the mystery man, he looked nervous. He fidgeted around a bit. He reached into the pocket of his mystery robe and he pulled out a shaving kit. At first I thought it was a razor or a can of some foaming goo. But right then, when the top popped off, there was nothing his box won't do. With the oil of Aphrodite and the dust of the Grand Wazoo. You might not believe this, little fella. It'll cure your asthma too. I said, look here, brother. You're driving with that cosmic debris. Oh, I said, look here, brother. Don't you waste your time on me. Well, I said, I've got troubles of my own, and you can't help me out. Take your meditations and your preparations and ram them right up your snout. I've got the crystal ball, he said, and he held it up to the light. Well, I grabbed that sucker away from him, and I showed him how to do it right. Well, I wrapped a newspaper around my head so I looked like I was deep. But I said some mumbo jumbo, and then he started to fall asleep. I robbed him of his rings and his pocket watch and anything else that I found. Well, I had that sucker hypnotized, he couldn't even make a sound. Well, I proceeded to tell him his future then. As long as he was hanging around, I said, the price of meat has just gone up and your old lady has just gone down. Look here, brother, you're driving with your cosmic debris.
I don't know how to end this, but well, yeah, I was thinking we can just keep going, but we'll have to end this here. I've already received some of the entries. You know, your first 5 or 10 chapters, I've already got them in the email. We'll send you their certificates later on. So yeah, so Miss Milos, do you have anything you want to share or promote in the coming, you know, or maybe perhaps you're writing your next book?
I have a blog that I started during the pandemic, being stuck. So, like a lot of writers had more time to write, being stuck and not be distracted by the world, and I'm trying to, which will be published here coming soon. So it's like a pandemic, I call it pandemic blog roll. So, but, I hope it will be published very soon. And it's gonna be soon. Yeah, so just to experience what happened during the pandemic when we were staying in Moalbo Island, in the beach community in Moalbo Island. We got hit by a typhoon, the super typhoon Ada. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very much looking forward
Yeah,
to
watch
that.
this space.
Yeah, so watch this space. We're telling you guys. Oh wow. We still have another question from the audience. I have a question in writing a memoir. Can we write a memoir about other people? Like, can we be the medium for them to use to tell their stories? Thank you. By Jessa.
Yeah, that's again with the voices. It's hard because it's possible because my friend Darby, she actually wrote, but it, even if I put in there, and she did her best. She's a professional, so people said like in the technicalities, it flowed very well. More than I felt I could identify more because it's my own story, and people also told me that when I was so confused going back and forth the voices, that you cannot write. I was even thinking to write my father's story, but you can't because I can't go into my father's body, so I can really just stick to me and my truth, but it's possible because Darby, she wrote about me, she writes memoirs for a living for other people too, but I felt like the emotions you can only capture, they cannot really capture that. It will resonate more when you write in the first voice. But yes, it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Jessa. So anyone from the audience, do you guys have any questions? It's okay. Yeah. No, none. Okay. None. Okay. Thank you so much, Miss Mitos, Mr. Darwin. Such a pleasure to have you here to grace our show, our first ever book launch here at the publishing house. So yeah, here you go. Okay, guys. So thank you so much, everyone, and I hope to see you guys next time in our next book launch. Bye.
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 Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.